Here are 10 unknown facts about bats. Number 10. Bats can't see well. If you were to look at your television right now, it would appear fuzzy and distorted because it doesn't have very good resolution. That's kind of how the world looks to a bat. They don't see well. Their vision isn't terrible, but their eyes just aren't great. Many people believe that bats are blind, but they actually can see. It's just that they can't see that clearly. The only time when a bat's eyesight is put to the test is when it's searching for food. And because they often hunt insects, which move quickly in random directions, they have to rely on other senses to get the job done. And this is why bats use echolocation, emitting a sound wave and then listening to the frequency change when it bounces back off an object. They can tell the size, shape, texture, and even the species of the animal by listening to the echoes. It's like using radar to find out information without having to actually see the target. But this also means that if there's a really big bug flying around making tons of noise, it'll be easier for the bat to spot. But then again, the bug might also be able to hear the bat coming and dodge its attack. So nature is all about balance. 9. Bats are used in the military. During World War II, American forces used captured Japanese bats to spread disease. Now, before we go any further, we want to say that we don't condone or support what was done. This was an awful thing to do, but it is part of history and should be known. Basically, the Japanese had already been using this technique before the Americans took it to another level. The Japanese were dropping plague-infected fleas onto the Chinese with the help of rats, which unfortunately led to many deaths. The Americans got wind of this and thought it would be a good idea to do the same. Only problem was, they didn't have any plague-infected fleas. But this wouldn't stop them. Instead, they went ahead and infected the bats with the Venezuelan hemorrhagic fever virus and then airdropped them over areas populated by enemy soldiers. Unfortunately, the virus wasn't very effective against humans, so they ended up releasing more bats with other viruses, including anthrax. To make things worse, after the war ended, the U.S. military continued to drop anthrax-infected bats in Korea and around the world until 1973. Fortunately, most of the bats survived and flew away, leaving the military with no way to clean up the mess. Number 8. You can't smile and breathe at the same time. Try it. Go ahead, we dare you. See, when bats are hanging upside down, breathing normally is quite difficult. So they basically have two options. They can either breathe through their mouth, but then they can't hang upside down. Or they can breathe through their nose while hanging upside down, but then their mouths stay closed. As you may have guessed, breathing through the nose while upside down makes the bat smile. If you've ever seen a bat smiling, you know that it's something quite scary. But this is also what allows bats to sleep during the day. If they could breathe through their mouths, they'd need to keep their mouths open, and not just for the sake of breathing. Other animals might try to sneak in and eat their babies, which is why bats typically give birth while they're hanging upside down. Number 7. There's such thing as a vampire bat. These little bloodsuckers are native to Mexico, Central America, and South America. And just like their name suggests, they feed on the blood of mammals, including humans. But don't worry. Attacks are rare and usually happen if the bat feels threatened. In these cases, the bat will use its sharp teeth to cut the skin and then lap up the blood with its tongue. But don't think that you're safe just because you live far from Central or South America. There are over 140 species of vampire bats across the world. Most of them prefer to feed on livestock rather than humans. Though there are many myths surrounding vampire bats, including that they can tell if you're going to die soon, the truth is much more simple. When they find an animal that has recently died, they land on top of it, drink some of the blood, and then regurgitate some of the blood onto the corpse. The next night, they return and drink the now fresh blood. Hence why people started believing that they can sense death. No. 6. Some bats only eat fruit. Even though most bats are insectivores, there are some that stick to a diet of fruit. They play an important role in the ecosystem as they help plants reproduce by spreading their seeds. For example, the flying foxes are known to eat mango, papaya, guava, and bananas, to name a few. And as you can imagine, they have no trouble finding these fruits in an orchard. Unfortunately, this means that farmers sometimes view them as pests and have been known to poison them, which is a sad reality. No, 5 bats have a social life. Yes, bats do have friends. While some are more introverted than others, Bats do communicate with one another and form social bonds. For example, there are bats that will groom each other, which means that they're probably close friends. But if a new bat enters the group, it will take a couple of days before the others accept it into their group. This is especially true when there's a female in heat. The new bat will need to be accepted by the group before he can win over the lady. But remember, even though bats are cute and cuddly, they can still bite if they feel threatened. So if you ever around a bunch of bats and you not part of their friend group, just keep to yourself and you'll be fine. No. 4. There's a bat that eats only one insect. There are a lot of animals that eat only one type of food. For example, pandas eat only bamboo. And even though that's weird, it's also pretty normal. What's not normal is a bat that only eats one insect. The Brazilian free-tailed bat only eats a particular species of moth. And if there aren't any moths around, they won't eat anything else. They'll simply starve themselves to death. Now, this may seem like a bad thing, but it's actually an excellent example of a predator helping control the population of its prey. For instance, if the moth starts taking over an area and eating everything in sight, the bat will have an abundance of food and will produce more babies. Less food means less babies. This helps to maintain balance in nature. No, 3 bats have no teeth. Not all bats, anyway. If you take a closer look at a bat, you'll notice that they don't have any teeth in their mouth. And this is not because they fell out or anything. It's just that bats don't have any teeth to begin with. And this is mostly because they don't need any teeth. Since they eat soft insects, fruit and blood, they don't need teeth to chew the food. But there are a few bats that do have teeth, and those are the ones that eat tough bugs and need to chomp on them a bit before swallowing. No. 2. There's a bat that lives in a tree. Remember how we said that bats typically hang upside down? Well, there's one bat that does the exact opposite. The greater tube-nosed bat lives in trees and hangs from branches while facing upwards. Now, you might be wondering why they don't just hang upside down like all the other bats, and the reason is quite simple. If they hung upside down, their head would be touching the ground, and it would be harder for them to spot predators. By hanging upwards, their head is always in the air where they can spot danger from miles away. Of course, this means that they have to watch out for falling leaves, but it's a risk they're willing to take. And finally, number 1, all bats are females. Just kidding. Half of them are males. But when it comes to bats, females are the ones that are truly special. They're the only ones who can give birth. If a male bat wants to have babies, he'll need to find a female first. And if he's lucky, she might agree to mate with him. And then 9 months later, she'll give birth to a baby bat. Now, most people think that baby bats are called bat babies. No, that's not it. Baby bats are called pups. And just like human babies, they need to be fed for a couple of months until they are strong enough to fend for themselves. And even though bat pups grow up fast, they're still adorable. Well, there you have it, 10 unknown facts about bats. Hope you learned something new today. If you did, make sure to leave us a like and share this video with your friends. Until next time, remember, knowledge is power.